how they didn't confirm Ned, even though all their goalies are hurt. It's like, yeah, you're gonna play your fourth aide, whatever tonight.
Well, Blastos.
I suppose.
I don't know if they still have the job.
Oh, they didn't. Rask hasn't been confirmed yet.
Mm-hmm.
That might change my outlook on that game.
I mean, if Olmark's net, does it really change it that much?
Yeah, because I don't think I like Rask.
Oh, Rask. Yeah, Rask is.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever and wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. And joining me for the next hour to talk about Aaron Dell just absolutely obliterating Drake Batherson last night, our single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing pretty well. I don't know if that was a dirty hit, but like as Matt Murray said, first of all, I just need to talk about Matt Murray for a second. Did you see that picture of him? That dude looks like he has been through some shit.
I mean, he has, so.
Yeah. But man, he did make a good point. Like, you're not expecting to get absolutely leveled by a goalie. So, I mean, it was just unfortunate because he got his ankle stuck on the boards. But, like, I don't know.
That's
I don't think it was a dirty hit. I just don't think he was ready for it.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, it was a bad outcome, and if he doesn't get his ankle twisted up or whatever, I think it's one of those things we probably just laugh at, you know what I mean? But it's the fact that he twisted up his ankle. He's going to miss the All-Star game now, which, people laugh at the All-Star game, but this is a young guy. It's only his second full season. Like, I'm sure it probably means something to him.
He can make a lot of money at the All-Star game too, and he plays for the Senators for the cheapest owner in the league, so he's playing for food stamps right now. So.
Yeah, exactly. and the point about the goalie, right, is like, you cannot touch the goalie. That's like it's the first thing you learn when you learn to play hockey. Like, number one is you learn how to skate. Number two is like you learn not to hit the goalie. So if a goalie's going to lay out even a small body check, then that I think that makes him fair game in return, which obviously you can't do because now if you start running goalies, then it's just line brawl after line brawl. But I think it's one of those things. Like, I'm glad to see him get suspended for it. He's got a hearing coming up. I think it's a dirty play because, yes, you're not expecting to get hit by the goalie. That's the big thing there, is that you're not supposed to touch them and they're not supposed to touch you. It's that, it's that little agreement that hockey players have on the ice. But that was a crazy game. I'm sure a lot of people that stacked that Ottawa second line certainly were not happy to see Drake Batherson go out of the game with that ankle injury. We did have a winner from our subscribers last night. We got a shout out. Shane Pinto Beans, he changes his screen name fairly often. You'll see him, I believe his FanDuel handle is Il Consant too. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. He took down the $5 single entry on FanDuel last night. Congrats to him. Pretty weird night last night. Like, when I look at some of the contests that I played in, it seemed like more of the cashy style builds kind of got there. Like Jake Gensel didn't do much, but the rest of Pittsburgh one did a lot. And you saw that broken lines and broken combinations, things like that last night. How'd you do, Josh?
I would have done fine, but I decided to play the Devils goalie at 6,500, and he gave up 3 goals on 7 shots in the first, so I had a negative 7.7 there. Still scored over 100 points, even with Gensel too. Like, I don't know. You needed Letang in your Pittsburgh stacks over Gensel, and then you're cooking with gas. So, you always talk about it, that it's rare that full lines go off all at the same time. So, sometimes, these broken stacks get there. It's just hard for me to leave off Jake Gensel from a Pittsburgh one stack and be like, oh yeah, I made the right decision. So,
I think that's a good point to bring up. And we do have just a 5-game slate ahead of us here today. So we do have a little bit of time to talk about some DFS theory and stuff like that. And you brought up, leaving a player off a stack and adding a defenseman or something like that, because it does happen. And it's why we do stack. It's part of why we do stack, but it's not often all 3 players are going to be among, the top 6 or 7 or 8 forward scores on the entire slate or something like that. That's exactly what you're hoping for, but that's not the way it works out. One of the main reasons why you stack is because you want to get, like Pittsburgh won last night, for example. The reason you stack the entire line is because if the line ends up optimal, it doesn't matter if one player's not, right? Like that's kind of the point here, is like, if a line's going to score 4 goals in a game and maybe something happens like last night where Jake Gensel doesn't do well, the other 2 players are almost certainly going to smash. So while you're not getting 25 or 30 or 40 points from every player, what you're getting is probably 40 points from one guy and then 25 from another and then 10 from another or something like that. So you're getting the optimal line, even if every player is not optimal. And that's why you can get into trouble when you do 3-2-1 stacks, because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there last night that stacked, Crosby, Gensel, and Letang, or Crosby, Gensel, and Dumoulin, or something like that, right? And, there's Brian Russ with an extra 20 DK points on top of it. And all of a sudden your 2-1 stack is a bust. But that's why we do full 3-3 stacks. And I don't do like pure 3-3 stacks all the time. Like out of a 20 max, I might have, 8 to 10 3-3s and then a bunch, 3-2s, 3-2-1s, and then a bunch, game stacks or Josh stacks, or not a bunch, but a couple game stacks or Josh stacks or something like that. That's why you do 3-3 stacks, or that's why you include all 3 players, is because you want to make sure that if the line is optimal, that the player that is going to smash the slate is in that line combination. Because, if you do leave off a player, you can miss out on the points that they bring. Now, when it comes to adding a defenseman, when you make your stacks, and you're a guy that typically does single entry or 3 max, when you make your stacks, like, let's say tonight we have the Washington top line, would you be more likely to just leave off a Tom Wilson or an Evgeny Kuznetsov to add a defenseman, or would you just leave all 3 forwards and then add the defenseman to make a 4-man stack? What's your opinion here?
Oh, it depends. Like an elite line, I try not to leave off any wingers. But usually with that case, the elite lines are so expensive, it's hard to get in their power play quarterback, because generally they're expensive too. Like Colorado 1, you have Makar. Pittsburgh 1, you have Letang. Washington 1, you have Carlson, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, like an elite line, I try to get in all the wingers and just hope that it's not a defenseman, because I'd rather regret not playing the defenseman than leaving off a Jake Gensel and him getting a hat trick. Or the chances of Jake Gensel getting a hat trick, in my mind, are higher than the chances of Chris Letang getting a hat trick, just because he's in the offensive zone more. It is what it's going to be. So elite lines, yes, I'm going to try to get in the forward. And what I would do if I want to make a 4-man stack, I'll play the guy who blocks and who has like peripherals and plays 5-on-5 ice time with them. It's not ideal, but like, it's just what I like to do with elite lines. If you're getting into like cheaper lines, which we'll talk about today, we'll use, I don't know, line A, Jenner, Nyquist. You have 2 guys on power play 1 there. If I can fit Werenski in, I will, but like I can leave Nyquist off to fit in Werenski. But chances are, like, if I'm gonna play line A Jenner, chances are I have a more expensive stack in there. So there's a good chance I'm gonna go with a shot blocking defenseman there with like Peak or Gavrikov. So it really just depends on your build. My defensive rules are pretty simple. There's 2 rules. 1, you either get the guy on the power play with the guys you're playing, or you get a shot blocker who sees some time with them 5-on-5. So you have a chance at the bonus. You have a chance at donking an even strength assist, or you have the guy on the power play who just sees all the minutes with them.
Yeah, I think like a Martin Fehervary from Washington is a guy that kind of fits that bill. He's played top pair with John Carlson, but often you play John Carlson because of the power play exposure. But you can go to a Martin Fehervary or something like that to get a little bit different. I agree with that. Like if I'm playing Colorado, there's not many times. I mean, pricing has a lot to do with it, but there's not many times I play Colorado 1 with Cale Makar. Like a lot of times it's Colorado 1, parts of Colorado 1 with Devin Taves, or parts of Colorado 1, and I'll even dump all the way down to Eric Johnson or something like that. Part of it is the price, but part of it is like they need to score like 7 goals to pay off, that entire full stack. So I agree with you. I think if you're looking to add a defenseman, you don't have to add the power play guy. It can be just a shot blocker that'll play with them. And if you're looking at top lines, that generally means guys on the first and third pairs. I see a super chat. Before we get too much further, just want to give a shout out to Yahoo Fantasy. They're our sponsor for our show, have been all season long, and we have a special giveaway for first-time Yahoo users. We'll talk about a little bit later, but I see a super chat from Chuck Dynasty. Thank you very much for the super chat, Chuck. $10 super chat says, when single entry assassinating, do you build, hedge, and pivot lineups? And what percentage of your entry fees would you allocate to hedging off your main lineup? I'm not someone that's ever hedged lineups in DFS when I play single entry, but I typically have played 20 max most of my career, like 20 max or low dollar 150, what have you. When single entry, do you do something like that? Is that something that you're interested in?
Not really, but there are times on like these massive slates that are just ridiculously good for MME where I'm like, I cannot get down to one lineup here. Like I'll play my one lineup in all my contests. I try to play the same contests every day. I try not to adjust how much I play, even if I'm running hot or I'm running cold. I play the same stuff every day. Don't get too low on the lows. Don't get too high in the highs, because single entry is just it's tilting enough as it is. So I'll play my one lineup and everything, and then I'm like, man, I'm really down between like these two lines that are similarly priced. I really like my lineup. So like out of FOMO, I'll put like another one in the 15 or like the main or like another 3 max where I'm just like, I really like this line. I need to get it in. But generally I don't. Like I play my one lineup and live with the results because I got there and it is what it is. Like the only time I really like tilt my face off when I lose is if I make a late swap. So like I'll just get my lineup, I'll set it, and I'll forget about it because I got there, my process led me there, and whatever happens, I let it ride.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I'm not somebody that made a lot of hedging lines. You wouldn't play much. Like if you have $500 in entries out and you're hedging, you're not playing, $250 worth of entries in hedges. Like you're not doing anything like that. Like you said, you might throw it in the 15 in a couple other contests or something like that. It's a fraction of the entries, not something we do a whole lot. But if it's something that leads to success for you individually, go right ahead. It's just not something that we do personally. Chuck Dynasty, thank you very much for the super chat. We really appreciate it. If you guys in the chat could please throw us a thumbs up. Those likes really help us look good for our bosses. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already. The road to 420,000 subscribers continues unabated. Click that bell to get alerts whenever we do go live, and check out what we have up on Awesemo.com for free premium tools and data today. We do have free premium tools and data most days, today being no exception. We have NBA ownership projections, we have NHL ownership projections, and we have our PGA top golfers all up on the site already. So check out Awesemo.com to see what we have to offer. I have my Power Plays article up on Awesemo.com. I do a few of those a week. Josh does one a week sometimes, depending on the number of games. The fourth man here at Awesemo, Jeff Fotler, does some as well. So check out Awesemo.com for our Power Play write-ups. Check out some stacks and some plays that we like on this slate. All right, we do have 5 games to look at. We have some pretty big totals, both at home and on the road. So let's take our time going through these games, Josh. We have the Anaheim Ducks with a 2.2 implied goal total going into Toronto. The Toronto Maple Leafs have a 3.8 implied goal total. Toronto has changed up their lines, and that's probably the big piece of news out of this game. Austin Matthews will have neither Mitch Marner nor William Nylander with them. It'll be Michael Bunting and Andre Kasha up on the top line. Ilya Mikheyev and Marner have jumped onto the second line with John Tavares, and then William Nylander down on the third line with David Kampf. That's really spreads out the Toronto talent, but I got to think that spreads out the ownership as well. And on a short slate with Toronto at home, having some spread out ownership probably isn't the worst thing if you know exactly what you're looking for. On the flip side, not lots of interest. There might be some interest in Anaheim because these are, I don't want to necessarily say like filler stacks, but they are some stacks on the cheaper side that you can use maybe with like a game stack with Toronto or with Washington that we'll talk about, or Colorado that we'll talk about. So I think we do need to take our time with both sides here. Josh, what are you liking?
Yeah, I just am not a fan of these Leafs lines. You've talked about it. Maybe you've definitely talked about it more, that the numbers, Matthews' numbers without Marner or Nylander are just stark. They're probably going to go out against the Getzlaf line, which is like probably their only line right now that can handle themselves on both ends of the ice, if we're being nice. And, you know, the last time these like Bunting, Matthews, Kasha was together, Kasha was on power play 1, which made a big difference in stacking that line. Kasha's on power play 2 now. So I don't know if I want to play Toronto 1. And then it's like, okay, let's go to Toronto 2. Going against Steele, Comtois, Terry. But like Tavares and Marner numbers together are awful. So yay. And then like you go down to Anaheim 3, like Delorier, Lundestrom, Silverberg, like, yes, let's play Toronto 3, but like David Kampf. Like maybe you can do like a Kerfoot Nylander. Like Nylander as a one-off tonight is interesting to me. But like I just wish like it was like Mikheyev with Nylander on that third line, and then you can really attack that Lundestrom, Delorier, Silverberg line. You can go Kerfoot Nylander. I do like Nylander as a one-off. If you want to go to Toronto 1, I think it's fine. Like I'm talking about the Ducks, like there's some like epic team here. They're not great, but I am concerned with stacking Toronto 1 with you know, like Calgary 1 on the slate, Colorado, Boston, you know what I mean, like the Sharks and Washington. There's just so many big totals, and if you're not going to give, and the Leafs aren't going to give us like Bunting, Matthews, Nylander, Bunting, Matthews, even Marner. Like, yes, I hate on Marner, but his numbers with Matthews are really, really good, and he's only 5,800. I hate on Marner when he's like 8,100 and doesn't shoot the puck. At 5,800, he would have been viable with Matthews tonight. But like Kosh being off power play 1, it's just tough to get there. Like, especially one lineup, like their prices are cheap enough where they make it 15-8 to full stack Toronto 1 going into the Ducks. But like Gibson is there. They were going to face Getzlaf, Zegras, Raquel. I just don't know. Like in 1 to 3, it's a tough sell for me with these other lines on the slate. So I think, you know, in 1 to 3, I'll consider them. I'll consider Toronto 2. I'm mostly considering like a Nylander one-off. In 20 max, I think you can definitely have some Leafs here. I'm not talking about outright fading a 3.8 total at home. Like this is crazy, but like these line iterations is just tough for me to get behind with the numbers, and I trust the numbers here. So in 1 to 3, I'm probably going to be pretty low on the Leafs tonight. On the Ducks side, in 1 to 3, I probably won't have anything, but you know, as you get into the 20 to 150 build, that top line is fully correlated. They are 12-5 to full stack. Muzzin's out for the Leafs still, which is a big difference. And since Campbell got COVID, his numbers have dropped off considerably. So I think, you know, going to Ducks 1 here, it's not a great 5-on-5 matchup, but you know, for the price and fully correlate on the power play, I think I can get behind some Ducks 1. Don't even mind a Comtois Terry 2-man. If you want to include Steele, you can. I don't think you need to. If you're, you know, going crazy with Colorado power play, I think Comtois Terry makes sense as a 2-man. But, you know, Jacob Silverberg, 2,600, power play 1, fine with a one-off. So, like, this game, I like stuff on both sides, but I don't think I'm going to get to anything outside of like a Nylander one-off in 1 to 3.
I want to talk about that top line because I think it's probably the most important part of this game, right? Because Austin Matthews, like I know, Alex Ovechkin's on the slate, so is Nathan McKinnon. Austin Matthews can just absolutely shatter this slate by himself, right? But the point I want to make is about the top line is, yeah, the numbers with Nylander, without Nylander and Marner are worse, but it's worth noting that they're worse offensively. They're not worse defensively, right? That's kind of the distinction I want to make here is that the Bunting Matthews line gets much worse offensively without Nylander or Marner, but defensively they're basically the same line. So that's why, like, I don't think it's any advantage to Anaheim 1, regardless of what the top line configuration is, because they've been basically the same defensive line all season long. So, like, I think whether Marner's up there, Nylander or Kasha or what have you, whether Anaheim 1 is a good play or not, it's irrespective of what wingers are on the top line. You were going to play them or you weren't going to. I'm not so high on Anaheim 1. It's more Anaheim 2 that's drawing me on that side. And it's for this reason. Comtois and Terry have actually put up good numbers this year without either of their top centers. Without Getzlaf, without Zegras, they're at about a 54% shot share, which is good for that Anaheim team. And you talked about Tavares and Marner not having great numbers together. They have good offensive numbers, but they give up a lot defensively. They're part of what I like to call like the 60-60 club, which is 60 shot attempts for and 60 shot attempts against per 60 minutes when they're on the ice. They're just playing at a very high pace, chasing up and down the ice. So yeah, that makes them a good play ostensibly, but it also makes Anaheim 2 a good play in return. So Comtois, fine. I wrote up Troy Terry in the Power Plays article. He's fine as well. So Anaheim 2 on that side. On the Toronto side, I'm not stacking an even strength line here. I think what I'm doing is using their power play. You can use like something like a Bunting, Matthews, Nylander, or Matthews, Tavares, Marner, or something along those lines is what I'm looking to use tonight here from Toronto. It is a massive total. It's the biggest total on the slate. Like I get that the lines suck, but they're still expecting a ton of goals here. So even if you don't want to play like the expensive guys of Matthews, Matthews or Tavares, like you said, William Nylander makes a great one-off here tonight. That third line has typically had good numbers together when they played together this year. And that Anaheim third line is just atrocious. So
bad.
Yeah, that Anaheim third line is like a 43% line or something like that. And that Toronto third line is like a 53 or 54% line. Like it's a complete mismatch in Toronto's favor. So I think Toronto 3 makes some sense. If you're trying to fit in some more expensive Washington or Colorado or what have you. I like a Toronto power play stacking their top guys together. I like Anaheim 2 as well. On the blue line, Rasmus Sandin jumping up to the the second pair for Toronto is interesting for me because I think he's the best young defenseman they have, like better than Dermott, better than Liljegren, better than all those guys. He just doesn't get ice time, but he's on the second pair with Justin Hall. Does he get some ice time here? I hope so. I don't mind him at 2,600. Anybody else stick out to you?
I think Riley is an interesting play tonight. He's back under 6K, 5,700. I think you just include him with your power play stuff. On the Duck side, I think Kevin Shattenkirk is an interesting play at 3,300. He sees a ton of minutes. He gets some secondary power play time. If you can fit Hampus, I think that's fine as well. But I think I would just go all the way down to Shattenkirk at 3,300.
All right, let's move it along then. San Jose, 2.3 implied goal total going into Washington. Caps have a 3.4 implied goal total. New Caps lines this morning at Morning Skate. The normal top line back together, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Wilson. But then Connor Sheary, Nicholas Backstrom, Daniel Sprong, second line. Now, I look at those line combinations, and it would tell me that Sheary and Backstrom might get some top competition here tonight, but it's not really something they've done a lot. They've pretty much just stuck to Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, and especially when Wilson's up there playing against top lines. I suspect it'll be top line against top line again here tonight. I wrote up, excuse me, sorry, I didn't write up. I was thinking about playing Timo Meier here in this game because I see like his price drop to 7,300. This is a guy that was an 8,200 skater quite often this year. And his ownership is really kind of in check at like 12 to 13%. In fact, San Jose 1's ownership is in check entirely, but it's a 2.3 total. What do you think about the Sharks here, Josh? And then what do you think about the Caps?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the Caps. It's just miserable trying to stack them. It is a little bit better that Wilson's there, that he's on the top power play, makes it a little bit easier to stack because you get full power play correlation there. As Evgeny Kuznetsov was almost 8K points this season, he's down to 5,100. Like that line is 18K to full stack. This is a good matchup for them. Hertel Meyer have really, really good numbers together, and they're probably going to get that matchup. But, still, this isn't a great matchup. James Reimer and net, penalty kill has not been great. So you don't really play Ovechkin for 5-on-5 anyway, even though, like, I saw a stat that he has like ridiculous amount of, I forget what it was, and it surprised me because he's always open on the power play, but he does have a ton of 5-on-5 points. But I think Caps 1 is an interesting play tonight. I think we need a new ownership run with these new lines. I don't think we've had one with these iteration of lines, but I would imagine they come in around 20. Like all these big totals, you're going to have ownership on tonight. It's just something that you can't avoid in a 5-game slate. So it doesn't.
Latest run has them at 28%.
Yeah, 28%. So I mean, like, listen, you're going to be playing any of these high total line like teams. These lines are going to be over 20% tonight. It's just a 5-game slate. There's pricing isn't outside of Colorado 1. Pricing really isn't a factor. So just do you, boo boo. So Washington 1. I don't know. I always have these problems. Like, I think I'm just going to power play stack Washington. It's just what I do. If you want to leave off Wilson, Adam Backstrom, like you talk about it, Backstrom makes their power play so much better. So getting Backstrom in a power play stack seems important. Can leave Wilson off. That might seem like a Tom Wilson slight. And I don't know if drunk Tom Wilson's in the chat today, but Tom Wilson's not going to be my hat trick pick. But I think putting in Backstrom, leaving off Wilson, or putting in Backstrom, leaving off Kuznetsov is perfectly fine. On the Shark side, like, I think at the ownership of the Sharks top line, I think you can play them. The Capitals are a good defensive team. The problem they've been running into recently is their goaltending. So I think going to Sharks 1 here makes some sense. Despite it being a 2.3 total, you'd have to think most of that total is coming from the top line. So I think, going Sharks 1 is going to be an interesting contrarian option tonight. You want to leave off Barabanov, adding Couture for some more power play. I guess that makes some sense, but I think going Hertel Meyer and adding in a defenseman is an interesting way to get different on this slate. So Caps power play, some San Jose 1 for me from this game.
Yeah, we made fun of San Jose 1. It drove me nuts to see Noah Gregor get moved down to the third line for San Jose, and then Balcerres to the second line, and then our buddy Alex Barabanov not only stays on the top line but gets moved to the top power play unit as well. Like, he just keeps getting removed. Whatever. That's not to say that the San Jose top line has been bad with them. Like, they're generating 71 shot attempts per 60 minutes with Barabanov on that line. So, like, obviously the San Jose top line has still been very good. The problem is going into that Washington top line, they did struggle back in, like, I think it was like November, early December, but yeah, they've been pretty good for about the last 6 weeks, like 48 shot attempts against per 60 minutes. That's very low. 24 scoring chances against per 60 minutes. That's pretty low as well. Controlling 57% of the scoring chances. Like, it seems like a tough matchup. Washington's getting some of their defensemen back. Like, the last few games they played, they're missing half their defensemen. So I think the 2.3 total makes sense. And when I look at San Jose's leverage, they're coming in with good leverage, but it's not like amazing. You know what I mean? Like, I thought we might be getting San Jose 1 tonight at like 4, 5, 6%. It looks like that's going to be double digits or close to it. I don't know if I want to play them at that high. They're still fine. They're still coming in with good leverage. No problem. No issues playing them. But I think they're going to come in a little bit higher than I wanted. So I'm off San Jose 1. Washington won, obviously. Do like them as well. I like what you said about just inserting Backstrom instead. I think you can do that with Kuznetsov, like leave Kuznetsov off and put in Backstrom instead. I think that can work just fine as well. On the blue line, there was not anybody that really jumps out immediately. Mario Ferraro for 3,100 is probably going to see a fair amount of minutes with both Jacob Middleton and Erik Karlsson out of the lineup. So I think Ferraro does make sense for 3,100. Brent Burns might play 27, 28 minutes here tonight for 5,300. We talk about how he's just a block bot, but at a certain point, you have to play a guy for 27, 28 minutes as long as he's not named Mikey Anderson. Who you got?
Yeah, the thing with Ferraro is he just doesn't shoot. So, like, if you're expecting him to shoot the puck, it's just not going to happen. He has 35 shots in 39 games. He does have 107 blocks in 39 games, which is really good. So he is live for the block bonus. So at 3,100, I wouldn't expect more than some block shots. Of course, I just locked in a couple goals from Mario Ferraro, but I think at 3,100, he's fine. If you can get up to Burns, I think, he should be pretty busy tonight. On the cap side, I think Karlsson makes some sense in power play stacks. Fehervari, if you can't get to Karlsson, is an interesting punt as well. Other than that, like, Schultz's season is canceled while Karlsson is healthy.
Yep. No problems with that. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our top stacks, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Please note that the Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be easily added to these packages at checkout, but it is not included in our base packages, though it is certainly very valuable, and though it's certainly a very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right, let's get to this next game. Calgary, 3.5 implied goal total. Columbus, 2.6 implied goal total. I was somewhat confused about this game when I started researching the slate last night because I could not believe that Johnny Gaudreau was $6,200. That line is coming in at 18,200 on DraftKings. They have absolutely just beat the brains out of their competition of late. Johnny Gaudreau has 18 points in his last 9 games. 18 points in his last 9 games, and my guy here is priced, less than William Nylander. No offense to Nylander, but come on. The problem with that is that it's obviously drawing a lot of attention to Calgary because of the pricing. So even though they're on the road, they're coming in at 23% ownership, which, like, I get it, but I have a hard time playing any line at 20 to 25% on the road. Maybe you can talk me into it, Josh. What do you see in this game?
Well, I think they're going to be higher on than that.
Do you think so?
Yeah. That being said, I think it's going to be really, really hard to get away from them unless you're playing Colorado 1, which we'll get to later. Okay, so, like, if you're thinking about fading them, I'll give you 2 reasons why you can fade them at that ownership. 1, Elvis Merzlikins is in net. He is their best goalie. He is a very good goalie. I think he's a very good goalie. 2, Columbus doesn't take many penalties, so Calgary won't get a super amount of power plays. Like, maybe they will, but statistically they won't. Now, that's all I can say for the reasons fading Calgary here. Chances are they're going to see Patrick Laine tonight. And you know what we like to do is attack good old Finnish Patty Laine because he cannot guard a lawn chair. So, like, I think Calgary 1's my favorite line of the night. Like, even if they get Domi, Sillinger, Bjorkstrand, like, that line isn't very good defensively. Voracek, Rosovic, Texier, like, sure, like, whatever. Like, this is just as Niehaus would say, a primo matchup for Colorado 1 or for Calgary 1. They've just been so good recently. their price has gone down. So like, yeah, I think there is enough on the slate to get different with Calgary 1. I'm very interested in them 1 to 3. You want to go to Calgary 2? I think that's perfectly fine as well. They're coming in double digits as well, but they're so cheap. Like, you probably could fit them in with Colorado 1 if you tried hard enough. I guess you can leave off Backlund if you want, but like Mangiapane and Coleman 2-man for $7K is just like,
I don't know what's up with this pricing, man.
yeah, like Blake Coleman. If Blake Coleman was priced 5,300 tonight, I wouldn't even bat an eye. But he's 3,300 tonight, going against the Blue Jackets. So like, Calgary 2 in play for me. I think a way, if you want to get a little bit different, and it's scary considering what we talked about at the top of the show, is you don't really want to leave guys off these elite lines. But if you want to get a little bit different, leave Lindholm off and put in Monahan. I think that will lower that will definitely lower the three of them tremendously, or just adding in Monahan and just full on power play stacking the 4 of them. You don't have to include Rasmus Anderson. And I think that's a good way to get different in Calgary, because Monahan, top power play, 3K, projected at 2.5, maybe it doubles to 5, but I think that is a way to get a little bit different with Calgary here tonight. On the Columbus side, it's just a brutal matchup. Like, there isn't a soft spot defensively for Calgary. That top line is just so good offensively. That second line is ridiculous defensively. Even the Lucius Monahan Dubé line has been good defensively, which blows my mind. But like, there just isn't a super good matchup that I want to attack. So like, I kind of want to get behind like Voracek, Ralstovic, or Domi Bjorkstrand, but there just isn't a matchup that I like in 1 to 3. If you want to play a little bit, I guess, in 20 or 150 max, it won't take much to get over the field. But in 1 to 3, I think I'm just going to be out on at least the wingers of the skaters on Columbus.
I think the way I might attack Calgary tonight, I'm playing one lineup. I haven't decided what I'm going to play yet. If I play Calgary tonight, what I might do is just Josh stack them. And for anybody that's not familiar, Josh stacking is named after our good friend here, Mr. Harris. It's when he stacks 6 skaters on DraftKings from the same team. So tonight you could do like the Calgary top line plus Mangiapane plus Coleman plus Anderson or something like that, right? And with their pricing, like, there's absolutely no issues doing that at all.
The price is broke.
Right. And, you know, if we wake up tomorrow and Calgary's won 6-1 or something like that, you wouldn't bat an eye at that final, right? And obviously, there are big spots elsewhere on the slate, Colorado and Toronto, namely among them, but not every team is going to score 6 or 7 goals here tonight, right? So if you're playing 20 max, 150, what have you, I think a Calgary Josh stack does make sense. Otherwise, you're going to have to get a little bit unique with your stacks, I think. I do really like both top 2 Calgary lines. Like, I'm not going to add anything to what you said about them. Both great lines, both in great matchups. The one thing I will say is that the Columbus power play, Columbus power play is still fine, but they've started to take more penalties of late. I was looking over the last 5 weeks or so, like, they're near the top of the league in time shorthanded. So I think that Monahan shortcut that you mentioned is a good one. Is throwing in Monahan instead of Lindholm, or just adding Monahan altogether. I think that's just fine. On the Columbus side, I kind of like that second line, just because I think Domi and Bjorkstrand typically have had good offensive numbers together this year. Now, I suspect Calgary 2 will still get the run of the play. You know, Domi and Sillinger aren't going to be great defensively together. But I still think that Domi and Bjorkstrand are talented enough offensively to score a couple goals here tonight. So I think Columbus 2 is in play in your 20 max, 150 max, definitely not in 1 to 3. I think this is a Calgary 1, Calgary Josh stack game. On the blue line, Oliver Shillington is the guy I keep going back to. 3,600, I think that's a very reasonable price. Obviously, I just mentioned the Calgary power play and all the penalties Columbus is taking. So Rasmus Anderson, 4,500 for additional power play exposure is just fine. Adam Bokvist is back for Columbus tonight. I want to mention him because he's one of the guys coming off the COVID list. I was reading an interview with him yesterday, He said he spent five straight days in bed, and he's only had one, I think maybe two practices. I think I'm going to pass on Bokvist for now. I might just go right down to Gavrikov. I think he's definitely in play for a shot. But it's like him and Pete. We'll see what the defensive pairings are at warmups. What do you think here, Josh?
Yeah, Pete and Gavrikov are the guys I play from Columbus. They're going to be busy with some pucks flying at their pads. So those are the guys for me. On the Calgary side, like if you want a power play stack, Rasmus Anderson's the guy. If not, Shillington or Noah Hannafin. And you can even dump down Chris Tanev. I think, he's fine at 2,700, which is weird because, like, I've been off Calgary defenseman all season until, like, the past few weeks, and it's been pretty lucrative for some reason. So I'm not going to conjecture as to why. I'll just shut my mouth and put them in.
Yeah, exactly. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth is the old saying. We have a super chat here from Abel Ramos. Thank you very much for your $5 super chat. He says, do y'all hate Mighty Ducks movies for how often they run into the goalie to score or trip the goalie to score? What I will say is that in the Mighty Ducks movies, the goalie is an intricate part of almost every play that they make. So at least the goalie's kind of expecting a little bit of rambunctiousness. I think I can let that one pass. Because, you got Goldberg winding up for the knuckle puck from his own blue line. Like, if a goalie's going to do that in a game, I think he's fair game. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, if you're going to pop off the mask and throw a knuckle puck at the net, like, you're going to take some hits, man. So if it's not like you're running Julie the Cat, that's a little bit different. Like that's a bit testy, but Goldberg, he probably deserves the hits.
Yeah, if you're running Julie the Cat, I think you might be starting a line brawl there. So a little bit of maybe a little bit of favoritism towards her. She was a fantastic goalie back in her day. Thank you very much. Yeah, unbelievable glove. Thank you very much for the $5 super chat, Abel. Very much appreciated. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you played in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you would like to speed up the process of getting access, email support@awesemo.com and we'll get you set up right away. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, and that can be used to enter any Yahoo contest. Those contests include tonight's NHL $2,000 baller and the NFL $500,000 baller coming up this Sunday. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. Shout out to the team behind the scenes for getting Yahoo projections for NHL up on the site. So if you've been playing Yahoo on NHL, we do have some projections up on the site. Just wanted to give a special shout out to Yahoo. They've been good to us. So please, if you want to get your feet wet in DFS, just follow the link below, get some free money from Yahoo, get your feet wet in this great game of ours. All right, let's get to this next contest. Chicago, 2.6 implied goal total. They're going into Detroit. The Red Wings have a 2.9 implied goal total. I think it could make a big difference which line you're looking at here, but there's one line very specifically that I like in this game. I believe I mentioned it in my Power Plays article, so I don't think it's a secret. What do you like here, Josh?
Yeah. We're talking about broken pricing here. I think Detroit 2's price is pretty broken. They got two guys on the top power play, Robbie Fabry, 3K, Tyler Bertuzzi, all the way down to 4,800. With Pius Suter, Bertuzzi, and Fabry, like they only have a 45-minute sample together. They've only been together for 4 or 5 games, but they are controlling 61% of the shot share. They're gonna get a favorable matchup on the Hawks. Like, I don't know, they're probably gonna get the Tays to Brinkat Lafferty. Like, you just don't know what the Hawks lines are gonna be. So it's hard to really be like, yeah, they're gonna go into this guy. 3 shifts. Hawks lines just completely different. So, but regardless, Bertuzzi, Fabry, Suter, very, very good numbers together. I really like them. You can do whatever you want if you put them in. Ernie Rasmussen Zadina is going to see the Strome Hagel Kane line most likely. So which leaves up Larkin, Raymond, Nemestikov to go against Kurashev, Doc, Kubalik, if that is the line. And if you want to use Detroit one, that's fine. Like Kurashev, Doc, Kubalik, pretty good defensive numbers somehow.
I mean, I think Doc's a good player.
Yeah. We give him crap for DFS because he just doesn't shoot. Yeah,
exactly. And he's not responsible that a bad team drafted him. That happens.
Yeah. What a terrible organization. But anyway, if you want to stack like Larkin, Raymond, and Cedar, I think that's fine. But for me, like I'd much rather go to Detroit 2 here tonight. They're cheaper. You also get the 2 guys on the power play. If you want to leave off Suter and add in Larkin, I think that's fine too. Chicago penalty kill, not great. Been bailed out by Marc-Andre Fleury, which is not a surprise. On the Hawks side, like I just don't know if the lines are going to stick together. Like Hagel-Strome Kane has kind of stuck together, and they're cheap. They're only $13K to full stack. Like these prices tonight, like this is when I say pricing's not a factor. Like $13K going against the Wangs, like sure. Like I think in 1 to 3, I don't know if I'm going to get there. They're definitely going to be in consideration. They might be one of the first cuts that I make after I write down the lines that I want to consider. But at 13K, I think an MME definitely in play for me. You want to go to Taze to Brinkat. Like I wish, the power play correlation was a little bit better. You want to go, Kane to Brinkat. Normally that 2-man is in the 15Ks. They're 11.8 for the 2 of them tonight, which is just the cheapest you're going to get them. So I think that's fine as well. I want to add in Strome for more power play. So like it's just hard to, like outside of Hagel-Strome Kane, which has stayed together, it's just kind of hard to really full stack anything. So if you want to mix and match with Kane and DeBrincat, I think that's fine as well.
It's funny. Detroit 2 wasn't super owned earlier in the slate. I just looked at our recent ownership run. The most over leveraged line on the slate here tonight, and it makes sense. Like I mentioned, good. They've had they get a good matchup here tonight. They've been very good together. Like Tyler Bertuzzi, I'm becoming more and more convinced he's their best forward. Just flat out, like better than Larkin, definitely better than Raymond. Detroit won without Tyler Bertuzzi on that line, 45% shot share, 38% of the scoring chances. That's awful. Whereas Detroit 2 with Tyler Bertuzzi, 57% of the shot share, 61% of the scoring chances. Like that is just a massive, massive chasm. And this is something that's gone on for years now. Like Larkin's numbers with and without Bertuzzi, this is something that's persisted for years now. So I think if I'm playing Detroit tonight, it's definitely the second line, but again, they're over leveraged. So it's not as if you're going to get them in a great spot. I think something like Bertuzzi, Fabry, and Larkin is something that might work. You just mentioned a stack like that back with Calgary, where you can leave off Elias Lindholm and add in Sean Monahan. I think you can do that something here with Detroit, but kind of in reverse, is leave off Pius Suter and add in Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin leads this team in shot rate over the last 5 or 6 weeks, and it's not even close. Like no one else is shooting but him. So I think that's something that you can go to. Or you can just do, like you said with Calgary, just add the center. Just take all of Detroit 2 and then add Dylan Larkin or something like that in case this is, a 5 or 6-0 game or something like that. None of the Chicago lines have good numbers. Like I think Chicago 1 has the best numbers of any line, and they're a 48% line. Right. So there's no matchups that I'm worried about here. On the Chicago side, I think I would probably just go straight to that top line. I'm not worried about any third line matchup here from Detroit. You definitely want to get Patrick Kane in whenever you're stacking Chicago. They do have a decent, like they're projecting decently well. They're projecting for over almost 28 points, like, which is more than Calgary 2, which is more than Columbus 1. It's, projecting more than, any except for the top of the top Washington lines. Like they're projecting well enough.
They have the biggest total for being a road dog.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, Chicago 1 is fine. Some sort of broken Detroit 2 plus Larkin is fine as well. On the blue line, Seth Jones prices down a little bit. That kind of interests me. Yeah. Anybody else interest you?
Not particularly. Cedar and some power play stacks for Detroit. It's really about it. Like McCabe, DeHaan, Murphy, fine, but like not exciting. Seth Jones and Cedar, probably the guys. You don't even have to include Maurice Cedar. I just think adding him on lowers the cumulative ownership of your stack.
Yeah, I agree with that. Here at Awesemo.com, we have an Awesemo Hall of Fame where we like to celebrate all of the accomplishments of our subscribers, even if Barry Bonds were one of our subscribers. If you'd like to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, this is how you can do it. You download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You place in the top 3 of a contest with at least 5,000 contestants, and then you tweet those wins to the Awesemo Hoff account on Twitter. You'll see D Lenny 24 taking down 100K in NBA. Not a bad score. You see Zane Breithaupt taking down split of first, the NFL Sunday night showdown. You'll see Ugly 8-game, just 8-game on FanDuel taking down the NBA putback single entry for 5K. Very good night from him. You see the NBA guys have just been absolutely crushing it. You'll see some Yahoo scores from Justin Tope doing very well. And then, of course, you had our buddy Shane Pintos yesterday taking down the single entry over on FanDuel. Congrats to him. Lots of winners here at Awesemo.com. If you're a winner, make sure you send in your screenshot to the Awesemo Hoff account on Twitter. Make sure you have the avatar, and you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. We do have some shows coming up after us. We have the NBA Wednesday night show, Yahoo NBA Wednesday night show at 4:00 Eastern with Kaufman and Greg. And then starting at 4:45 Eastern, we have our deeper dive and live before lock NBA combo starting with Alex and Adam. All right. One game left. Let's get through this game. Boston 2.6 implied goal total going into Colorado. The Avs have a 3.6 implied goal total. I'm going to be very honest with you, Josh. I like Colorado here a lot tonight. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to use them and whether or not I'm stupid for playing them. It's a 3.6 total, but we got confirmation while we were on the air. It's not Tuukka Rask starting. It's Linus Ullmark. And Ullmark had been playing pretty well up until for some reason they decided to give Tuukka Rask a bunch of starts. I think this is an upgrade in net for them, and that means a downgrade for Colorado. Not nearly enough where I would just say, no, I'm not playing Colorado, obviously, but it is a downgrade. What do you think here, Josh?
Yeah, and it's crazy that this is the only late game of the slate. So it's not like you're either committing 20K plus to the last game or you're fading that. There's no option here. Like you're either playing them or you're not. Very conflicted here because these are two elite lines going into each other. Now, Mr. G, Saul Goodman, in our Discord said today, someone smarter than him, which I don't believe, did a study on these elite lines in really tough matchups, and the Corsi numbers don't really change. Basically, what he's saying, the study is saying, is elite lines do elite things irregardless of the matchup. Colorado 1, from a DFS perspective, has let everyone down recently in really, really good matchups. This is a miserable matchup. Probably the worst they can have in the NHL. Probably the worst. With Craig Smith on the top line, their defensive numbers in a huge sample are ridiculous. Better than they were with Pasternak up there. So it's depressing their ownership. And Colorado 1 is very, very expensive, but they're an elite line. They've been letting people down. It's a miserable matchup. So the only thing that can happen here is Colorado 1 just goes absolutely crazy tonight. Like it's the only outcome. It's the only outcome. And scares the living what out of me that I'm considering fading them, because how often are you going to get these three guys in the teens? Like, we can project them at 15%. They're always coming in at like 31, 32. I honestly believe this projection tonight that they're going to be around 15 to 20%. So, like, what do? I think in one lineup, you have to consider them. Like, irregardless of the matchup, they're the best line in the NHL, arguably. So you have to play them. It's just a matter of, are you going to do it? And it's scary because this is a terrible matchup. You have really elite matchups all over the slate. So I'm very interested in Colorado 1 tonight. I'm also interested in Boston 1, just because this is a pretty good a better power play spot for Boston than it is for Colorado. Interested in both top lines, more so in Colorado 1. Colorado 2, interesting to me, like mixing in Kadri, or I don't know, like Nishushkin super cheap. Like, Boston 2 is not a very good matchup either going into like the second line. So I think, Pasta coming in super well owned has my interest. Kadri, Nishushkin has my interest, super well owned. It's hard to ignore this game, but it's just awful that it's the only late game.
Yeah, it does suck that it's the only late game. Where I'm leaning here is Colorado 1. Like, you're right. I do want to take advantage of what should be some lower owned players just because of the pricing elsewhere on the slate. And I do think I can find some value without worry about being duplicated. So I'm in on Colorado 1. If you want to throw in Devin Taves instead of Cale Makar or something like that, it's something we talked about earlier. And it's not quite just a shot blocking defenseman, but it does save you over $2,000. So I'm completely fine with that. I do like Colorado 2 as well. The Boston second line has been good, but not nearly as good defensively as the top line. And that Colorado second line has generally been very good this year. I wrote up Valery Nichushkin in our Power Plays article here this morning. They're controlling 52% of the scoring, or Boston's second line is controlling 52% of the scoring chances, but this Colorado line is at like 59% of the shot attempts or something like that. They're really, really rolling, and Nichushkin's priced down in Colorado. So I like Colorado 2. I don't mind Colorado 1 either. On the Boston side, I think it's Boston 3 that makes a nice filler stack here tonight. They've been controlling 58% of the scoring chances in their sample together. And that Colorado third line, honestly, is just bad. It's the 1 weak link this Colorado team has is their third line. It's just been bad all year long. I think Boston 3 makes sense if you want to get in a super expensive Toronto or super expensive Washington, or just game stack here with Colorado. On the blue line, I wrote up Brandon Carlo in the Power Plays article. With Matt Grzelcyk out tonight. I imagine Carlo, he might not play a ton of minutes, but he should float near 20, and that brings the shot bonus into play for him. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, on the Boston side, not really. On the Colorado side, like Devin Taves at 5,200. It's like, maybe this slate it's possible because there's with so many cheap pricing, but like fitting in Colorado 1 with Makar is quite a dilemma. So Devin Taves, 2,300 cheaper than Makar, sees the same minutes, gets secondary power play time. I think Devin Taves is a very good play tonight. That's really about it.
Yeah. Matt Grzelcyk is out. Somebody in chat asking about that. Grzelcyk is out tonight. All right, Josh, we got to get out of here. I'm going to ask you for your hat trick picks and your goalies. My hat trick pick for tonight is one Robert Fabry, and my goalies are Elvis Merzlikins and Marc-Andre Fleury. Who you got?
I like those goalies. I also don't mind Gibson, and if you're spending up, Jacob Markstrom, and my hat trick pick is going to be Mikko Rantanen. Rantanen.
There you go. Mikko Rantanen, Robert Fabry are your hat trick picks for tonight. NBA shows coming up for the rest of the day. We will be back tomorrow. For producer Mike, for Josh, I'm saying good luck tonight, everybody, and we'll be back in 23 hours.
Trade for Lehkonen.
Please don't.